My name is Timo Mustonen. I'm the founder of Sustainable Space Economy. It's my pleasure today to run this Orbit Forum webinar, and I have two guest speakers today. And today's topic is about utilizing software in the satellites. So let me introduce the two persons joining today. So let's start from Perttu.
Yeah, hello, I'm Perttu Yli-Opas, co-founder and CEO of Aurora Propulsion Technologies. We manufacture propulsion systems for small satellites, especially for the use of sustainable space, so basically enabling the sustainable operations in orbit.
Thank you, Perttu, and then Miklos.
Hello, my name is Miklos Tonka. I'm based in France, and we develop software for satellites. And one of our key goals is to have sustainable satellites. We see a lot of waste, and we want to improve that.
Okay. And now it's my pleasure to start Miklos to make the introduction to the topic which we are going to discuss today.
So I would like to tell you a little bit about parsimony and the technology stack we are solving. And I don't want to talk so much about our solution. This is at the end of the day not a pitch. It's much more I want to describe the challenge we are facing and a challenge that has a significant connection to sustainability. It's very clear for most of us that the space economy is massive and it's expected to be even bigger. So let's not spend time on that. What I would like to spend time on is inefficiencies or wasted resources in space. If you look at satellites, we see that many satellites have unused capacity. We estimate that about 1/3 of Earth observation satellites is sitting idle. Why is that an issue? Well, it's an issue because at the end of the day, you could say that you could replace three satellites with two. You could save one satellite if they use more efficiently. We are launching too many satellites, they are not used well. But even if we look at the parted satellites that's being used, we see further inefficiencies. What we see is that those satellites use software which has been developed for the cloud. Now, in itself, that's not a problem at all, but cloud software is very often massive. It's not ideal for resource constraints places like satellites. What we find is that in many cases, one can reuse the onboard software by a factor of 20. So the space software is in many cases 20 times bigger than it should be. Now, why is that a problem? It's a problem because those satellites will be using much more energy or will be hosting less software, which again, it's leading to not very efficient, not sustainable solutions in space. If you can have less resources, your satellite will live longer, you can have more software. Again, you avoid launching satellites, which is better for the world. And sort of indirectly related to sustainability is also cybersecurity. Another angle we are addressing is the angle of insecure satellites. So not just that the software is inefficient, but also those satellites are very easy to attack, which leads to further challenges for our world. Now I'm stopping right here, and I'm interested in Perttu if you have any questions or any thoughts about what I'm sharing here. Obviously, my presentation continues with our proposed solution. We have an operating system called SpaceOS, and we are proposing a satellite as a service marketplace. But I don't think that's the goal today for me to tell you about our technology. You can reach out after this presentation. It's much more to get your feedback, Perttu, about what do you think? Are those challenges real? And do you think that solutions like ours can potentially address them? And with that, I'm stopping my screen sharing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And yeah, this is definitely a relevant topic because, of course, the inefficient use of satellites will directly cause more like consumption and basically cost as well as impact to the debris in orbit as well. My first question is maybe on what are these resources that you are talking about when you are talking about inefficient use of resources? Because of course the satellite has a lot of different functionalities and all of them are such for each other. So the instrument time itself, but also in addition to that, for example, power um power production and power budget, processing budget, downlink budget, all of these different topics. So which of these do you see as the most problematic at the moment?
Well, the one I see the most problematic, you have not touched on, I think. Really, we are a software company. So what we look at the software itself. So software used on board of the satellite. We find that software is very often not efficient. And we also look at use of data provided by the software. So very often today, in the case of Earth observation, we send every single image down to Earth, and that's really not efficient. The solution is process the data in the satellite and send only the useful images, or actually send the insight generated by the image. So what I'm talking about inefficiencies, it has to do with the software stack we use, which is very often significantly larger than optimal, meaning sending the software is costly. We use lots of bandwidth, and running that software on board of satellite requires a lot of storage, a lot of processing time, a lot of memory. None of these are efficient, and they are not optimal if we want to make sure that the limited resources on board of the satellite are used in the most efficient manner and in the longest way. We all know that nano satellites have a very limited lifetime, couple years. Now, why is that? One of the reasons has to do with energy consumption. The moment you use less energy, the lifetime of those satellites will be longer, which again, it's better for a sustainable world.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I've actually I came across this on a very concrete level back when I was studying in university. I found out about some of the open European Space Agency satellite imagery. And it was very interesting to see that you can actually download those raw images. But the problem was that each of these images is about 2 GB in size. You just have an FTP server access, and there's no preview. There, you have no idea what the satellite has actually imaged. You just need to download the whole multi-gigabyte image to see at all what the image is about, and that was a very concrete level problem that I was very surprised to see back then, having been used to more of a let's say consumer specific software. That wouldn't be acceptable for something that you are making for a consumer. Obviously, you couldn't do something like that, but in reality, with satellites, that's pretty much how it's done. And something like even just sending the thumbnails to understand what's being imaged, but of course, then looking into something like AI processing and filtering of the images that actually make sense to transmit, also including the decision making of what of the data, like not just post processing, but also before taking the image, waiting for the really correct conditions to take the image or whatever your instrument is. I think that definitely makes sense.
And I think if I may add to that, I mean, it's not just sending the images. I mean, you absolutely correctly pointed out that those images can be massive. But the moment you send the images, somebody needs to process it on the ground. So it's not just that we are wasting bandwidth, but we are also wasting time for on-ground processing. So that's why Edge AI, so basically processing of those images on board of the satellite and sending only the result, is so important, because more and more use cases are being identified, more and more data will be sent. We are already talking now about the saturation of airwaves. If there are 10 times more satellite than today, there will be issues with just the pure bandwidth. So it's crucial to have that onboard processing done in an efficient way, allowing A, efficient use of the satellite, and B, optimization of the airwaves. So by the time the result comes to the ground, it's actually not millions and millions of images or data points, but it's just the insightful information to which the user can react. And if there is nothing to react to, well, you don't have to send the image.
Yeah, for sure. One question here is maybe reliability, because like I guess there's a lot of the same phenomenon as like your smartphone has much better GPS than a fighter jet, because a fighter jet uses technology that has been proven to be true like 20 years ago, and the fighter jet was designed back then, and it's now in operation. That same, of course, applies to satellites very often as well. But now the fundamental problem there is the reliability, because you absolutely need to be able to verify the technology like all the way from the beginning to the end, because before you actually want to utilize it in a satellite. There's a little bit more room to play with new space, where the approach is quite different from the traditional. But what's your approach to this reliability question?
Yes, that is a very good question, and it's a question which we absolutely focus on to make sure that what we propose to the users of our software is very reliable, and we do that in two ways. So first of all, from a cybersecurity perspective, we use all kinds of formal verification methods. So we use software to test the software to run every single potential attack scenario in a way no hacker could. So we physically put the software under stress test to make sure that it's being tested against every single possible attack. So that's the cyber security related reliability. Now, the other aspect of reliability is new space very often involves having multiple users in the same satellite. It involves updating software in the satellite. It's crucial that if we do a software update on board of the satellite, it doesn't crash. If your computer at home crashes, you just press the reset button, or you call IT and IT fixes it. Well, you can't send up IT to space. So what we are doing there, in addition to having the smallest possible file sizes when we do upgrades, again, the smaller the file size, the less of a risk of a data corruption. But when we upgrade software, we have a very careful mechanism in place that we do not launch an upgrade before we have tested that the uploaded software is fully intact and it has complies with those various checksums, which demonstrate that the software is not corrupted, but it's a true representation of what it should be. So those things together, very secure, very efficient, and verification before it's implemented, make sure that the environment is very reliable and has a very high chance of robust, reliable operation.
Yeah, and that's interesting to hear, because of course, like for our propulsion systems, we have a microcontroller that is using or executing all of that low-level control for the propulsion system. And although much simpler in scope, the software on that microcontroller is also updatable, and we've been tackling very much these same issues. And exactly the major points are that you need to always have some part of the software that is able to independently run, even during any single process of that software update capability. And you need to be able to cross-verify all of the new components before you are moving over, which is a very, very interesting question for sure to tackle. And yeah, for us, it's a single 16-bit microcontroller, which is still quite small in scope. But of course, when you go into a little bit more complex software, then there needs to be a little bit more complex system for managing that, especially when you take into account, for example, the radiation-induced problems that you might have in the actual memory. So yes, of course, a very, very complex topic. Yeah, I mean, what about your approach otherwise? So what is the stage that you are in? So is this something that you are already about to launch into space, or what's the stage that you are on?
Very good question. I mean, we are a startup, and we are not in space yet. What we have done various validation with one of the largest satellite companies, Thales Alenia Space, in order to prove that our software, in fact, is very efficient, in order to prove that our software allows for easy management of multiple users on board of the satellite. And after having validated that on real space computers that would be on board of a satellite, we expect that we'll be in space in the next few months in order to demonstrate that our environment works also in real space conditions. Since our technology, the core of our technology, it's open source, and it's being used in a slightly different version, but in many ways similar version, by millions of users as part of Docker. We are quite confident that it's robust and reliable, but obviously the real proof will be when it's in space, and we're looking forward to that test. I have no concerns it will work, but obviously having no concerns and having reality are two different concepts. So we should be able to show reality in a few months.
Yeah, that's exciting. Why don't you tell a bit more about the approach to use open source, because that's very interesting aspect as well, especially in the space industry. That's not very common to use open source packages, but what's your approach with regards to that?
Well, we use a technology called MirageOS, which was created at the University of Cambridge by some researcher who have identified that the current technology stack, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, in regards of operating systems, is not the most efficient, because people originally, nobody cares about the operating system. What we all care about is the application. Still, most of the time, it's the operating system we have first, and then we put applications on top of it. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because it's, again, very inefficient. So when we talk about sustainability, it's really not sustainable to have a super powerful software stack where we use only 5% of it. When you think about Windows, for any particular application, use maybe a few percent of Windows. So the research at the University of Cambridge was the complete opposite. They said, let's start with the application and let's build a software stack that is dedicated for the application. Let's build an OS that's dedicated for the application. So if the application doesn't need a printer driver, there will not be a printer driver in the operating system. If the application doesn't need Bluetooth, there will not be Bluetooth. So we have a very, very small operating system dedicated for the application. That's called unikernels. Now, this research was made open source. And that was the research. A company was created called Unikernel Systems, which was acquired by Docker, because Docker felt that this kind of technology is something very, very powerful for the cloud. And it's today used by millions of users as part of the Docker software stack. But we believe that fundamentally this kind of technology should be accessible to everybody. So that's why if you Google MirageOS, you are able to find the development kits, you're able to find the source code. Now, the founding team of Parsimony, my CTO is one of the original creators of this technology solution, decided that or identified that this kind of technology could be very, very useful for space applications. So we are building on an open source technology stack, and we have a layer of additional tools and drivers and components which are for the satellite industry. Now, not all of that is open source at this point. Some of it is not open source because we are interacting with proprietary hardware and we are getting access to proprietary code, which the manufacturer of the hardware does not want to make open source. Other times, we have not fully decided yet what's the optimal approach from a commercial perspective for us as a company. If we talk to major European institutions like the European Space Agency, they very much favor open source software. They would like to see our software to be 100% open source. However, if we talk to major industrial partners or investors, they want to see patents and they want to see protection of our intellectual property. Right now, we keep both options open. And if you ask me a year from now or 2 years from now about which path we took, I will be able to give you the answer. Today, we consider both. So our fundament is open source, but the additional layer for satellites is, for now, closed source.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. And of course, the age-old question of open source and profitability is going to be a difficult one to tackle. But it's really cool that you are able to take something from the software industry in general and take it into space. And of course, that's exactly what is needed, because the space companies don't have the expertise to do that themselves. So you do have to have someone that is actually expert in that system and kind of formulates it into the space context.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the point you make is a very important one. I mean, for us, becoming the richest company in the world is not our main goal. It's a secondary goal. The main goal is to do the right thing for the planet. So sustainability, that's why sustainability is one of the key drivers for our company, because we believe that there's a lot of inefficient software out there, and inefficient software is going to cause damage to the planet. It's going to cause problems to many, many participants of the value chain. And really our goal is to make it accessible to everybody. So yes, you can make money with open source. Maybe you cannot make that much money with open source, but it's fine. We have the best developers in the world. We have the best innovators in the world, numerous PhD computer scientists. We charge very reasonable prices. Why? Because we want to make this technology accessible for everybody. Our vision is this kind of technology we propose should become the new standard. Today, there is no standard. It's very difficult to develop software for satellites. If there is no standard, it limits innovation. We want to accelerate innovation. We want to make it accessible to everybody. And yes, maybe we will not be billionaires. People are still willing to pay for very strong software if they say, well, this is open source, but I want to make sure that the people who created it support me. They are there to help me to initially set up. They are there to work with me if I have any questions, and they're willing to pay for that.
Yeah.
I'm very delighted to hear your words, Miklos, about sustainability. And I would like to hear also Perttu's takeaway, how software and sustainability are connected in Perttu's mind.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, one like interesting aspect that I've been discussing recently is kind of the role of software and let's say a transform from manufacturing to more of information economy from the perspective of sustainability and as well as just economic growth, because you are actually able to do like provide economic growth without an increase in resource consumption. And this is something that in the modern world where economic growth is kind of the basic pillar that the whole or at least most of the world is built on, that is something that we do need to kind of navigate so that we are able to provide that that economic growth from a source that is not going to increase the resource consumption. And of course, this is a perfect example of how that can be done, because we already have these resources up there. And even though the amount of these resources, like the resource consumption can still stay constant, while the actual value added will be increasing. So this is absolutely absolutely essential in the big picture, and being able to get just more done basically with the same amount of resources, while like what we are doing at Aurora is the other side of the coin, to reduce the impact of that resource consumption. So the impact of space debris, both on the side of what reducing the actual collisions that the space debris can have, but also reducing the amount of space debris generated. And there's a lot of different solutions on that side that you have to basically all take as a one large tool set, and utilize all of them to be able to do and utilize the space in a sustainable way, talking about like not only 10 years or 20 years, but basically 100 years time frames. And within that time frame, when you start looking at the big picture, absolutely all of these tools are essential, so that you can build something that is able to provide for us while not jeopardizing the future.
And like discussed, very many people talk about profit only. They want to be billionaires and want to have Ferrari and so on. So, Miklos, I assume that sometime when you were a little bit younger, you were thinking about Ferrari and becoming a billionaire. So what is the key motivation behind this, talking about sustainability? I believe that it's in your heart, and I believe everything what you say. But what is your motivation? What is making you to talk about sustainability?
Well, I have children, and I want to maintain the planet for them and for their children. So people who are building very aggressively profitable organizations that very often don't focus on long-term sustainability, they often don't care about destroying resources which are not necessarily easy to renew. I'm saying that we have to invest, and this is an investment. I mean, it's a choice between how do you live your life and what you leave behind. Some people say it's crash and burn, and it's, I should be happy and the rest doesn't matter. I'm not like that, and I don't think I ever was. I think it's very important to acknowledge that we share this planet with other people. We share this planet with future generations, and it's our duty to make sure that we leave it behind in an as good shape as we can. And there's only so much an individual can do, but if we all try to do a little bit, then this whole place will be better. And that motivates me. I mean, that's why I don't need. I mean, it's. I really would like to drive a Ferrari, but you know what? That's not one of my key objectives in life. My key objective is, yes, I need to have a car. It can be a middle class car. I need to have enough money to go on vacation with my family. I don't need a luxury mansion. I don't need a yacht. I'm happy if I think about, hey, I'm doing great things for other people. That gives me a reward versus a monetary reward where I can say, hey, I have a Rolex watch. I don't have one. I don't need one.
So, question to Perttu. While you were listening to Miklos, what type of thoughts you got from the talk about sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that's the key issue here, that you have to have the bigger picture in mind in whatever you do, and I think that also the kind of perceived value of what a company is doing should be taken into account, this bigger picture, and not just the financial statements of the company. And luckily there's a lot of movement towards that kind of directions, but in the space industry it's still quite a new concept, because the space debris issue is something that is not it's understood academically, but it's on the practical level there's still a lot to do before we understand really the whole big picture. And not only space debris, there's also some like other aspects to space sustainability, and all of this needs to be part of the equation in the future, whatever field you are in. But of course, space industry is one key industry, because it is such an essential one for understanding the world. And without the space-based data, for example, we wouldn't be able to do any effective decision making with regards to climate change, because basically almost all of the data that we are processing has some component coming from the space industry. So it's absolutely essential that we are also able to keep producing that crucial data and crucial services that are based in space, so that also everything on Earth can be managed effectively, because we have all of these huge problems that we do absolutely need to tackle in quite a short term with some of them.
And Perttu and Miklos, I'm extremely happy that I had this pleasure to have you here today and have this interesting discussion. But before leaving, Miklos and Perttu, I would like to have your key takeaways from the discussion today. So what are the one or two things you remember after this discussion and you want to share?
Yeah, so for example, the maybe foremost thought in my head is about the efficiency. So the other side of that coin is waste, and of course waste is something that we don't want to see. So all of this infrastructure that we have in place, being able to use that more efficiently is going to be a simple gain from basically all perspectives. So that's an absolutely crucial point of the big picture that we discussed.
Just to add to that, so I mean, after this discussion, I'm excited. I'm excited because I thought that we at Parsimony were one of the few people who care about sustainability for space. And it sounds like it's not the case. We have yourself, Timo, championing this initiative. Perttu, you also look at a different aspect. So I think really my takeaway is we need to talk more about sustainability, all of us. Because if we do that, we will create higher awareness. Companies will come to us saying that, hey, Perttu, you have sustainable technologies to reduce waste in space. Can we maybe work together? Can we leverage what you do? Hey, Miklos, you focus on sustainability in satellites. We want to do that too. This is not just about money. It's about using the right kind of tools. It's having the right kind of mindset. And really what I took away that we should talk more about that, because the more we do that, the more we will help this planet to change. And today's sustainability is not a common mainstream topic for space. It should be. And this initiative is a good start towards that.
And those who are watching this recording, you will see soon email addresses for Perttu and Miklos, and you are able to continue discussion in that way. And Perttu and Miklos, thank you for one more time. It was a great pleasure to have you here.